Hey folks, this is Jason Lewis, the producer of the From the Shadows podcast. I just want to remind you about our website, FromTheShadowsPodcast.com. We have a Facebook page. We would appreciate it if you like and follow. Also, join our discussion group on Facebook called After the Shadows. We have a Twitter feed. Please follow us on Twitter. It can be found with @podcast_from. Follow us on Instagram at From the Shadows Podcast. We have a YouTube channel. Go to the search bar at YouTube and put From the Shadows Podcast, and please subscribe to that channel. We are also on the Odyssey Radio Network, and we can be found there at odyssey1.com. We're still on the traditional podcatchers that everybody loves to listen to us on. We get a lot of feedback, so please rate the podcast and communicate with whether you're on Spotify, Stitcher, TuneIn, Apple Podcasts, Podbean, or Google Podcasts. We're there, and we appreciate it when you leave comments for us. We also have a Patreon page. It can be found at www.patreon.com/From the Shadows. You can receive books, stickers, coffee mugs, and special content just for our Patreon subscribers. Check it out for yourself and see what packages that we have to offer. Well, that's all I have for you right now, folks, and thanks for being a part of the From the Shadows podcast family. So with that being said, let's get this episode started.
So Howard, last week, I mentioned that a guy played high school football with, unexpectedly passed away, and but it kind of got, me and some of the other guys were talking about, it takes you when people your age start passing away, especially guys you played sports with, you kind of start reminiscing a little bit, and around here, like it is everywhere, it's high school football, college football just started. The Buckeye, we're big Buckeye fans here.
That's right.
And they gave me a little bit of a scare against Minnesota there to kick off the season.
It happens.
But so what's football like there in the Lake of the Ozarks? What's it like out there?
Well, I'm gonna let me back up and tell you that the high school I went to was terrible when I went there. Okay, but now they are an absolute powerhouse, which makes everybody want to live there. Everybody want to go there. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, yep.
But the older I get, I was talking to my kid. I got an 8th grader playing, and my daughter, or my oldest, I think it was my daughter, told me one day going to brand practice, because the football players were out there at band camp. That's what the deal was. We had band camp. I was taking her up there, and the football guys were out there for 2 days. And this has been several weeks. I mean, a month ago, right?
Oh,
and
yeah.
I said, my God. And she said, well, they do something every day in the summer. And I said, what do you mean? She goes, oh, yeah, it starts the week after school gets out. They have something football related all summer. And I said, that can't be, right? That can't be. And sure enough, the high school football players have something every day of the summer. Did you know that? I don't know if they do that where you're from.
Sports never stop. I mean, there's always, even though there's only so many days that you're technically allowed to do something, they figure out a way to have you there every day if they can.
Yeah, and I guess it's like it's supposed to be weights or this or that or all this stuff. And she's like, they didn't do that. So I asked my son. I said, they really do that? Oh yeah, they didn't do that when you were in school. I said, no. How would they got all the hay put up if they had all the kids there? When could they enslave the freaking kids that they had? You know what I mean? I cut 40 acres of sprouts. That's what I cut.
Well, yeah, like I remember when I got to we were in 8th grade, and the class I was in, we were supposed to be the second coming of, I don't know, whatever,
Mm-hmm.
we were really good, going to be going into our freshman year. And, but up until that time, the weight room at our high school was one of those universal machines in a utility closet.
Yeah, I know
utility
exactly what
closet.
you're talking about.
And it wasn't until, and that's like 85, 86, we got new coaches that came in, and this was like, for a little farm school, it's kind of a anomaly. Every single one of our 5 coaches played Division I college football, and I don't mean like little rink. Like we had one that played at Toledo, and Toledo was undefeated for 3 straight years in the late '60s, and he tried out for the Redskins. He had a guy that played at Michigan State, another guy that played at Toledo, and he got cut by the Packers. Guy that played at Miami, Ohio. I mean, we had guys that were real legit college football players and knew their stuff. And those guys came in and they turned our weight program into, brought it into the new century, a new age, except for us taking steroids. We didn't take steroids, but
that's why y'all didn't win all the games.
Well, we won quite a few, but it was, I mean, the difference in playing football back then compared to playing football now, from what I see, almost is like from playing with leather helmets back in the 50s to what it was playing like when you and I would have played in the 80s.
Well, you talked about the weight machine. When I was in 7th and 8th grade, in the high school I went to at that time, 7th through 12th was in the same building, right? So 7th and 8th.
Okay.
So you were in high school at the 7th grade. Now, there was also some Catholic schools that fed into it. So some kids one of the Catholic schools stopped at 6th grade. 2 of them went to 8th grade, right? So you had an influx of kids in your class in the 7th grade, and then you had a second influx in 9th grade. So, but when I was in 7th and 8th grade, the weight room, there wasn't a weight room. There was a weight machine in the lunchroom. And when they folded the tables up and lunch was over, certain people, you know what I mean? That's where they lifted. And of course, they had a pegboard. Remember when they do a pegboard?
Oh, the
hanging on the
pegboard.
gym wall? Remember what I'm talking about?
Pull yourself up, yeah.
Yes.
I could only ever make it like four rows up. Man.
Right. They had a pegboard and some pull-up
How
bars.
about the rope? How about the rope that used to hang from the ceiling? Did you guys have that where you had to pull yourself, like try to pull yourself all the way up in the gym?
They would put it up every once in a while, but I flamed out when I think it was my sophomore year. I didn't play any of my I didn't play any of my senior year. I know. I don't think I played any of my junior year because I had a physical altercation with the assistant coach who was the head JV coach. Now, when I was in 10th grade, I was the only sophomore that actually started. Okay, I started in varsity. And then I would play JV. I'd play both JV and varsity. You with me?
Yeah.
So we had this little, and I don't want to say his name on here, but we had this little assistant coach. When I say little, short, he was about 5'5", and he had giant arms, like he was compensating for something, right? So he was in great shape. What?
He wasn't your uncle?
No,
that's a different story. That's a different story.
Well, I mean, maybe he had something there, but hey, he was in great shape. No, I mean, when I think about it now, he was a workout guy. But anyway, we went to this little town called Vienna, and it don't mean anything to you guys, but we used to call them the Brush Shapes. We were playing the Vienna Brush Shapes, and they were the only school that was probably worse than ours at the time that we played. And their metal shop and FFA building butted up to the football field, right? So sometimes you would be tackled or you'd be down, and you'd get something stuck in your hand or your elbow or something. It'd be a piece of angle iron or a bolt or something, because those guys would throw junk out from the FFA and welding building out into the field, this old dirt grass field. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Knowing we were going to play on it, or hating the football players, or who knows why they did what they did, right? So we got off the bus and we're over there, and he's trying to give us this rah-rah pep talk. And, I don't even remember what he was all saying, but he chose me out. And I think he was probably, now that I think about it, he was trying to motivate me because I had started, like I said, I'd started a varsity game the week before. right? So, and it was kind of a big thing. And he chose me, and he said something about me smiling. Why are you smiling? And I said, I'm not. Yes, you are. Wipe that smirk off your face. He comes over and gets in my face. Wipe that smirk off your face. And I mean, I've told you some stories, right, about physical confrontations, about me and some of my people, and whatever, right? So when you want to get in my face, yeah, I mean, it's real for me. Does that make sense? Are we going to
Oh
go
yeah.
or not?
Oh yeah.
Because if you're just going to sit here and play Mr. Full-time English teacher and part-time football coach, it ain't going to work. You with me?
I'm with you.
So he's about 6 inches from my face, and he says, "Get that smile off your face." And I said, "I ain't smiling." "You are too." "I'm not either." "You are too." And we get this, "You are too." "I am not." "Are too." And I said, "It's my helmet squeezing my face." And he said, "What?" And he said something like, "You're a liar," or "I don't believe you," or something like that. And Shane, I ain't kidding you. I took my helmet off, and I was a lineman, so I had a lineman face mask. You know what that means. So, and while I was gripping my lineman, I smacked him upside the head with my helmet.
Oh, no way.
And I said, "Do I look like I'm fucking laughing now or smiling now?" And they told me to get on the bus. And the game ended started. So I sat on the back seat of the bus, right, the whole game by myself.
You didn't even. Oh my god.
No, they didn't come get me. So anyhow, I think that was Thursday. Does that sound right? JV plays on Thursday. Does that sound right?
I don't know, man. Our JV always
days?
played on Saturdays or whatever.
Oh, well, you were anyway. Saturdays where I'm from is for weddings and funerals. Anyhow, the varsity coach come and got me Friday and said, what the hell happened? And I said, nothing really. And he goes, well, he was trying to figure out what went on. And I said, so and so was just fucking with me. And he said, well, he says he's gonna let bygones be bygones or something like that. I said, I ain't never playing another game for you motherfuckers ever again. So he can be bygones all he wants because I am gone, and I never played another game in high school.
Oh, jeez.
Mm-hmm. And I felt bad because this is what I feel as an old person looking back on the main coach, Coach Cannon, was a good dude, and he really wanted to help me succeed. Does that make sense? He wanted to harness what he thought I had. But, short man certainly didn't come to me and say, hey, I shouldn't have popped off, or I shouldn't have gotten your face, or you know what I mean?
And if he had, your reaction might have been a little bit different.
Maybe, I don't know. Who knows? Who knows? So, needless to say, sometimes I think these coaches are bringing too much, and I'm gonna make the football fans mad or whatever we have. But dude, these kids are in high school or middle school. Leave them the hell alone.
Well, I mean, look, I never bought into the whole rah-rah stuff. Okay, I played with guys that they needed that, man. They needed the coach to, you were talking about that, and we had a defensive coach, Coach Norris, great coach. He was I forget what he taught. Did he teach math? Super intelligent guy, really well read. One of those guys that loved history or whatever. But man, he really liked giving the speeches and pumping people up. Okay, and we played with some guys that really bought into that stuff. I thought it was nonsense. Okay, I just did. I just thought, you know what? Let's just go play football. I don't need pumped up. I don't need whatever. And so I had a flashback when you're sitting there telling this story. And we were, God, where were we playing? I think we were playing over at this little podunk place called Riverdale High School. Not the one on Netflix with Jughead and Archie and Veronica or anything. But he's given this speech about, it turns into like what we were going to do out there. And he goes, we're the mailman and we're going to deliver. We're the mailman.
There you go.
And we're going to deliver.
I like it.
And flashback to, you just flashed me back to that. And he was like, these guys, the guy, we're the mailman.
There's guys that love it, right?
We're the mailman. And now I look back, and that guy set me on a path in life that doomed me to be
the mailman.
I think I'm the only guy out of that whole team that's a mailman. He screwed me. He just screwed me.
That's right. He jinxed it. I totally agree.
But it made me think of another. So we had just another example of coaches going over the top to motivate people for who knows, whatever. But we had the school that in the middle of the school, there was a courtyard. Okay. And the school had been built in the 60s, 20 some years. I don't ever remember seeing anybody out there in this courtyard. Okay. I don't even know how you got out into it. There might've been one or two doors, whatever, but you couldn't get to it from outside of the school. Right. Unless you put a ladder up.
Makes sense.
Unless you put a ladder up, climbed up the outside of the school, walked across the roof, and then looked down into this courtyard. Okay. It's impossible. And nobody in their right mind would have done that. Okay. So we're playing this big rival of ours, Cary. I'm a sophomore. I was I was just, I'd started defense as a sophomore varsity, and I was a running back, a fullback. But back then, fullbacks meant something. You got to carry the ball a little bit. And I was just beating out the older guys that were junior, seniors that were playing ahead of me. Okay. And I was getting to the point where I was going to start getting getting a lot more carries and being, and in those days, doing that as a sophomore, that was a big deal.
Right.
Back where we came from. And so we get to school like on that Friday morning of when we're going to play Cary. And the whole courtyard has been toilet papered. There was stuff written on the windows of the courtyard, like
Fast Times at Ridgemont High.
Yeah, like Fast Times at Ridgemont.
Like what's his name's car, right?
Yeah, except Sean.
Forrest Whitaker.
Yeah.
They didn't realize he was the last king of Scotland, or they would have never met the car. Right.
Or Aretha Franklin's dad. Anyway, and then in our lockers, we had stuff like taped up in our lockers, and you know what mine was? Okay, so
like somebody had taped something in your locker.
Like
you
somebody
open the locker and you see it.
Like not only had somebody put ladder. Now this is what the Cary was 25 miles away. Okay, so they expected us to believe that these kids from Cary got in their cars, drove
over, broke in, and did all this.
No, didn't even break in. That they brought 30-foot ladders with them, climbed up on the roof, took the ladders down in the courtyard, got down there, toilet papered the courtyard, wrote on the windows, then somehow got into the school, found their way back to our
and knew whose lockers was whose.
Knew whose lockers were who. And my piece of paper they had, you remember the refrigerator, Perry?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
He was back
That's what my head coach wanted me to be. He wanted me to be.
Yeah. So here I was a defensive tackle and a fullback, and back then, I was 6'2", 225. And so so of course I wasn't fat, but they, that in those days they made you think that was fat. And so here's this three ring notebook paper with a picture of out of Sports Illustrated of William Perry in his Clemson jersey stand beside a refrigerator. And then it's like number 45, you fat blankety blank, whatever. And dude, the guys on the football team bought
I was
it.
just saying, you had people believe it, didn't you?
Hook, line, and sinker. And I'm the sophomore, and I'm like, are you guys serious? I'm thinking, like, you guys really expect anybody to believe this? I mean, and number two, and you're grown adults, and you spent your Thursday night doing this. Like, you thought, you thought, man, let's get our guys psyched up. We're going to toilet paper the courtyard. And they had to go
they come in here, the rivals did it.
Yeah, rivals did it, and they're coming to play us tonight. And look what they did. They took the bus. They came over a night early and started the game. Like, oh my God, and I just think back.
But I guess in these coaches' defense, because I don't know how I would do it. You know what I mean? Because I don't know how. I mean, how would you motivate kids nowadays? Because
you can't.
I mean, think about it. Now, think about it. Okay, so our dad's generation, right?
Yeah.
They knew. I mean, they grew up hearing about, Iwo Jima and Normandy, and I mean, they grew up with badasses doing badass shit, right?
Oh yeah.
So, and then they had their own. I mean, they grew up with no shit motivation. First of all, they're a generation like our parents. My dad was born in 49 or 50. Okay, so here you got to, we joke right now, growing up in the 80s, how hard it was with no seat belts or no car seats or no air conditioning. I mean, think how tough it was for those guys in the 50s, right? If you grew up in the 50s, because then you're learning about hard shit from dudes who grew up in the 20s. I mean, there's people that rode a mule to school. I think I told in the podcast one day, I met a guy in Minnesota that was an old man, 80-some years old, tough guy, and he had went to college.
Oh yeah, the guy ate horse.
Yeah, the guy that ate horse. That's right. And it's because he played, because when they moved from up on their iron range down to wherever he moved to, he went to he volunteered for every, baseball, football, hockey. I don't remember what all he played, so he could take a shower at school. So it was just a scam for him to get a shower. Right?
Yeah, he played sports so he could be clean. Yeah.
Yes. So that's my point. Is how do you get these kids motivated, especially big kids? Like neither of my boys. Now, my oldest boy, he quit playing his freshman year. He played from the front. He started in West Omaha, Millard. People from Omaha. He started playing. They take football serious in Nebraska and places. Okay. He's never been able to handle the ball because he weighed too much. Because they have all these safety things. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, yeah.
So when we were kids, I don't think they had that, right? They give you the ball.
But we didn't start playing football as young as they do now.
We didn't start playing until seventh grade, I think. Does that sound right?
Yeah. Yeah, they didn't have football like that because kids were working, doing stuff on the farm.
So neither of my kids have ever carried the ball. And you go, well, how would you get real big kids, what would be good kids, motivated to play for 8 or 10 years to where they, in high school when they can really stretch out or where, I mean, you can't even get them motivated to brush their teeth or take a shower sometimes. You know what I mean? I don't know.
Well, I think it's a huge.
2 generations ago, there was people that tailored their whole life around having taken a shower.
Well,
I mean, think about it. Make all your choices on hot water. And
I think that wouldn't the world be a better place if people maybe had to make those choices instead of do I want to go to a 2-hour football practice or do I want to stay here and play the newest version of Tour of Duty?
I don't know. I got mine make decisions sometimes based on how good internet service is there. They don't want to go over here, go over there because you don't get service here. They don't get internet. I don't know what this world's coming to. I don't even know how we got on that topic.
Well, because we were talking about old school motivation.
Maybe that's what it was. And into football, and I was thinking, these guys are taking it serious because the world's done passed them by. You know what I mean? The world has done passed athletics by in some, look at some of these baseball games. I watch a lot of baseball, and I guess COVID's it now, but I mean, when you watch a stadium, I don't remember whose game I was watching a while ago, Cardinals and somebody, and half the stadium's empty.
Yeah. Well, I think the Cardinals are playing the Cubs this weekend, so I hope it wasn't a Cardinals-Cubs game because that should have been packed.
I don't know. The Reds played. Who'd the Reds play today? I think the Reds are in it, aren't they? Are they a wild card or are they in it?
They're a wild card. Wild card. Yeah.
I knew that you were speaking of Ohio earlier. What's the name? Herb Street, Kurt Herbstreit, or Herbert. You know who I'm talking about?
Oh yeah, he's a big Red fan.
Yeah, he's a big Reds fan. So he was talking about catching the game, or he was talking about something the other night. But I was watching the Cardinals coach a while ago, and he was struggling to answer some questions and stuff. And I said, in the back of his mind, it's probably because they fired the last guy that went 2 or 3 years without the playoffs. You know what I mean? And here he's going to miss it. Yeah, you know what I mean? So, when I lived in Minneapolis, that was a big thing. These guys, the Twins aren't very good, very much, but they keep the same manager and they keep the coach and they keep. Now, a friend of mine told me this because the organization is just the owner's hobby. He really doesn't really care if he wins or anything. Not real competitive or whatever. But I just remember the daylight radio would talk, daytime drive radio would talk about, hey, what would it be like? Because, they'd go 15, 18 years in between playoffs. And I just remember at that time the Cardinals had just won the World Series or was going to another one back to back or something. And they said, wonder what it's like to be in a town where they expect it. You know what I mean? Like, how would you like to be a fan in a town where they expect to go to the playoffs, like a Yankees or a Cardinals or whatever?
Or Red Sox or something. Yeah.
Or Red Sox. You're right. And then it segued into, because they're always mad because they suck and nobody ever gets fired, right? Where if you suck for 2 or 3 years in some of these markets, you get the whack.
Well, it's weird because, being a Browns and Indians fan, we hope we're good. And then we're not, but the Indians guys never really get fired, and the Browns guys get fired every other year. So,
I didn't realize. I watched the thing on Belichick today. I didn't realize Belichick got the whack from the Browns. Didn't he? Isn't that where he started?
Well, they moved.
Maybe
they moved. He was there the year they moved, and then he did not go to Baltimore.
I just know that the Browns are starting to, who they're playing on the season opener.
Somebody bad, isn't it?
Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs. So I'm sure
is that
this
who
year,
yeah,
that's their season opener here in a couple weeks. I think on the 18th, the 19th, like that.
I tried not to look.
So I'm sure that they'll be fine. I'm sure that they're going to be fine.
Hey, listen. Maybe I need to break into Cleveland Browns Stadium up there and
motivate him. What's his name? He does them commercials. Whose house is this? What's his name?
Baker Mayfield.
Baker Mayfield. He's my favorite quarterback. I might buy a Baker shirt because he does them cheesy commercials, and I don't even know if it's any good, but I like his commercials.
I got a Baker shirt with the UFO because him and his wife have seen a UFO, man. So he's my favorite. Other than being a Browns guy, he's my favorite. So there you go. Because he's seen a UFO.
I didn't realize they were UFO people.
He's from Oklahoma. UFOs and Bigfoot. That's all it is in Oklahoma.
Well, that's because the U.S. government made them all go there, and then took the land back. So,
gosh.
Yeah.
Why
they've had to wander around because America took that land back when they discovered oil.
Oh, jeez.
So, that's right.
Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of the From the Shadows podcast. Until next time, never shy away from the darkness or what may be lurking in the shadows. We are out.